Hi, my name's Dave Green and I've worked at some of the UK's largest flower shows. From Chelsea to Hampton Court, they're really spectacular events, but there's often things hidden in your local area that are just as special. Today we're in King's Heath Park in Birmingham and we're going to have a look at some hidden natural treasures in this area. But don't forget to like, share or subscribe and let us know in the comments below about any hidden natural treasures in your area. This park has a really rich history and has had wealthy owners in the past who've invested money in a lot of different planting. And despite being left to its own devices, the plants are really thriving. This is our first hidden natural treasure, and this is a foraging area of the park. It's full of all sorts of goodies. There's blackcurrant bushes, raspberry bushes. Over here there's a loganberry, and at the back there's an apple tree and a kiwi vine. But the tree we're looking at is just over here. This is our first tree. It's a medlar tree, and it was brought to the UK by the Romans. It became popular in the Elizabethan and Victorian times, and that popularity was due to these unusual looking fruits. And they come about after a flush of whitey pink flowers all over the tree in spring, making a really beautiful display. And these fruits are really interesting because you can't buy them in many shops. And that's because when you use them, they need to be left to go overripe for a few weeks when the sweetness develops. And when you get that sweetness, it can be made into a jelly, into a medlar jelly, which is great with cheeses. So overall, this is a really fantastic tree, beautiful spring display, fantastic fruits, and a small shape make a great addition to any garden. So this is another one of our natural hidden treasures, and this is a maple tree. It's one of two in the park, and a lot of people will know the UK field maples or the Canadian maple trees you get maple syrup from, but this is an example of an Asian maple tree. And what's really interesting about this tree is this amazing paper-like bark which covers the trunk. As the bark ages, it peels off and it reveals a smooth cinnamon coat underneath, which makes this a really fantastic tree standing out in the winter. And one of the interesting things about this tree is it was brought to the UK by a guy called Ernest Wilson. And we're in King's Heath Park in Birmingham, and Ernest Wilson was born just down the road in Solihull. And he travelled all over China and Asia, searching for plants and finding new specimens in the 1700s. And he brought the first Acergrisium paperbark maple tree to the UK. And this is a fantastic tree, grows to about 6 to 8 metres tall, making it ideal for a small garden. So we're here by the pond in King's Heath Park to have a look at the second one of our natural treasures, and it's this tree. This is the dawn redwood tree, originally from China, and it likes to grow by water, so that's why we're here. And the interesting thing about this tree is that it's a conifer, but it loses all of its needles in the winter. So a lot of people know conifers from the hedges in their back gardens, but this is an unusual one from China that goes a rusty red colour in the autumn and then drops all of its needles. There's only 5 species of conifer in the world that do this, so a really unusual tree. And another thing about this tree is it was thought to be extinct, and so they'd only found fossils of it up until the 1940s, when in a village in central China, someone discovered one growing, and when it was investigated, they found more and more of them in that central China area, and now they've been propagated all over the world. And this tree is probably about 30 years old, and it's already grown to 20 metres high, which is quite quick growing for a tree, and it's helped it to become one of the most popular conifers in the world. This tree is a liriodendron tree, but you'd know it as a tulip tree, and it's called tulip tree because of the unusual shaped leaves. The leaves have this scalloped top to them, which looks a lot like a tulip flower, and so that's where it gets its name from. One of the interesting things about the tulip tree is that it's in the magnolia family, and the magnolia family has flowers that were the very first flowers to be developed in the evolution of time. And the flowers developed before the bees, and so instead of being pollinated by bees, the flowers developed, and they're large flowers with a lot of pollen to attract beetles in, which come into the flowers and eat the pollen and then pollinate the tree. As well as interesting flowers which happen in spring, this tree also has fantastic autumn colour, with the leaves turning a buttery yellow colour in the autumn time all over, making a really great display. It's a large tree, so it's good in bigger gardens or in park settings, but it's a really fantastic and interesting tree to find. So that's our last tree, and whether you're walking around a park, down a country road or in a woodland, it's amazing what's there waiting to be discovered if you just have a look. So leave a comment below and let's find out what natural secrets are waiting to be discovered in your area.